Hello guys, this is Sonic. In the last video, we had learned on the basic operations that you can perform on integers. So we had learned about addition, we had learned about subtraction, we had learned about multiplication, about division, and about power. So if you haven't checked that video already, do check it out. In this class, we're going to learn on how to take an input as an integer from the user. So if you don't know what an input is, it's like this. You type in some variable name like input from user, and then you type in an equal to sign, and then we type input and then brackets. Okay, so this is an input statement, so the user can type in whatever they want. Now what we type in between these two brackets is going to be printed out when we run the program. So suppose we type in here, hello, please type in your name. Okay, so this is going to get printed out in the terminal when we run this program. Now, the reason I have given a space over here after the colon is because if there was no space, it would be like this. So the user would not be able to see clearly what they've entered. But if there's a space, they can actually differentiate between what has been printed and what they are typing in. So that is basically the input statement. So now what we can do here is that we can print out what the user has entered in this input statement, like print. It's also a good time to introduce you to formatted strings. Now, formatted strings in Python are strings which are prefixed with an F. So they can be any type of strings. You can have single quotes formatted strings, you can have double quotes, you can even have formatted strings in multi-line strings. So right, what the specialty of formatted strings is that normal text is written normally, there's nothing about that, but text that is written inside curly braces is actually considered to be a variable name or an expression. So here we wanna type in whatever the user has entered in the input statement. So we type in input from user. So it's gonna print the value of input from user, whatever the user has entered. Okay, so if we typed in Sonic in the input statement, it would print out hello Sonic and not hello input from user, not the variable's name. So let's run this program. We should see hello, please type in your name, and then when we type in our name, we should see our name printed with hello. So we type in our name, Sonic, and as you can see, hello Sonic. Okay, so that's basically the input statement and what a formatted string is. Now, suppose I wanted to take the user's age as an input. Okay, now I type in something like this: user age equals to input. Okay, now what is your age? And then we give a colon and a space. So that will take in the user's age and store it in user age, the variable user age. Now if I want to add 10 to the user age, I could do it like this and then store it in another variable called age plus 10 equals to user age plus 10. Now let's print out uh, the age of the user plus 10. So you will be age plus 10, and I'm using a formatted string here, years old in 10 years. Okay, so if you add 10 to someone's age, it means that what you get is that person's age plus 10 years. Okay, so we should see this getting printed on the terminal, and then we should see the age we have entered over here plus 10 getting printed on the terminal. Okay, now let's put some blank lines here because it's good to separate your code from the inputs and other sections. So we type in our name here, Sonic, and then some random age like 12. Okay, now we see an error over here, which is the type error can only concatenate string, not int, to string. So basically what Python is telling us that you can do something like, you can add two strings like hello plus another string like Sonic. Okay, you could do this and the statement over here would not raise an error if you've used it properly. But if you try to do something like hello plus, let's say, 10, this statement is going to raise an error, okay, because you cannot add a string to a number. Okay, so that's basically what's happening over here. Now let me also introduce you to the type function. Now what the type function does is that it returns the type of the expression or variable that is passed to it. Okay, so let's just comment out these lines right now, and let's put in type, and we want to see the type of the user age variable, so we do that, and then let's print out the type, because the type function only returns the type and it doesn't print it. And let's also comment out this line because it contains the variable age plus 10, which is currently not defined as it's a comment. Now if we run this program, we should technically see class string as its type. Okay, see, class string. So basically what this means is that user age, the variable user age right now, is a string, not an integer. That's why we cannot add 10 to a string. Let's uncomment these lines. Now there are two ways that you can convert this input to an integer. Now the first way is to pass the input statement to the int function, which is going to convert whatever the user has entered to an integer spot on right there. Okay, so it asks our name, we type in our name, and we type in a random age like 12. See, our program runs now. You will be 22 years old in 10 years. Okay, but suppose I type in something that cannot be converted to an integer. Okay, let's run the program and see what the result is. So we type in 12 as our name. Now remember, an integer can be a string, but a string cannot be an integer. So if we type in hello, see, we get another error. This time it's a value error. Invalid literal for int with base 10, hello. So basically, if you've seen my previous videos, you will know where we've seen value error before. And if you're thinking of assigning .py, then you are absolutely correct. Congratulations. We saw the value error where we tried to convert a string which could not be converted to an integer. Okay, that's basically what's happening right now. Okay, so it cannot be converted to an integer. Okay, hello cannot be converted to an integer. So now, what is the second way? Before that, what we want to do is we want to see if the user age can be converted to an integer. So if it's something like hello, then okay, hello is something that cannot be converted to an integer. We do not want to evaluate the statement age plus 10 equals to user age plus 10. So how do we do that? Now is also a good time to introduce you to the try and except blocks of code. So basically, if you have some kind of code that you want to see can be executed, like this type over here, we want to see if user age can be converted to an integer. You put it under the try block like this, user age equals to int user age. Now Python tries to do this. If it is possible, then well and good. Otherwise, it looks out for the except blocks of code. So let's just copy paste this over here right now. Okay, now let's remove age plus 10 and type in user age plus 10. This should evaluate to the same thing as formatted strings. Whatever is written inside the curly braces, if it's an expression, it gets evaluated. Okay, now we add in an except block of code over here. Now we type some kind of an error like warning. It is the base class of all warning categories, but here we want to look out for the value error in specific. If there's some other kind of error, we don't want it to do the following code. Okay, so if it's a value error, meaning that what the user has entered as their age cannot be converted to an integer, we print this out in the terminal. Please make sure that you have entered an integer. Actually, no, they might enter a negative number as their age. Enter a number as your age. Okay, so basically this code would run only for once unless we loop it. Okay, so a loop is basically something in Python which runs the code again and again without you having to write it a million times or something. Okay, there are two types of loops: while loops and for loops. Okay, while loops may or may not be used with brackets, but for loops should not be used with brackets. If you wrote something like this, then it would raise an error. Okay, so what are the uses of loops? Well, the broad use of loop is to execute some code again and again. Now, for loops are used when you know how many times that certain piece of code is going to get executed. So this code over here, whatever we write under this for loop, it's going to get executed 10 times. Okay. Then what are while loops? While loops are loops in Python that execute until whatever is passed to them is false. Okay, so basically if we typed in something under the while loop and we passed an expression to it, until that expression is false, it would keep executing what is under it. Now, pass here is a special word. It means do nothing. If you typed in nothing over there, it would raise an error. That's why we use pass. Okay. Now, what we want to do is check if the user age can be converted to an integer. So here we use a bool. A bool in Python, or as we call it, a boolean, is basically a value that is either true or false. That is either 0 or 1. Okay, so here we're going to use a bool. User age is int is false. So currently we do not know if the user's age can be converted to an integer. So we type in here while, in the while loop, while not user age is int. Okay, so basically what while not user age is int does that while user age isn't, that bool is false, keep executing the code that is under you. Okay, so not means that if it's true then make it false, if it's false then make it true. Okay, and then over here, if the user age can be converted to an int successfully, you want to make this true, otherwise it would run forever. And here we want to make sure that the user can enter another input as their age, otherwise it would make no sense asking them that they have not entered an integer. Okay, now let's type in Sonic, and what is our age? 12. So it says here you will be 22 years old in 10 years. Okay, so now that's true, that runs. Now if we type in Sonic and we type in something that is not an integer like hello, see, it doesn't raise an error. Instead it says please make sure you have entered a number and transfers our age again. Now this would go on forever and ever and ever and ever until we enter an integer. Not even a floating point number would do, because you can't be, you can't have an age that is a decimal until we enter something that is a proper integer. Okay, that's 12, like 12. Okay, now you see we do not see this line again. Please make sure you have entered a number, meaning that not user age is true, is int, has become false. Okay, so that means that user age is int has become true. So that's it for this video. We learned about try and except blocks of code. We learned about loops, about bools, and about inputs. So I hope you like this video. Bye.